Hey friends, my name's Georgie and I am so excited to welcome you to the first Feel Good Friday episode of the Just Breathe podcast, where I'll be reading an excerpt from a book that's provided me with particular inspiration and insight in the hope that it will do the same for you. Reading and storytelling are such incredible tools for growth and empowerment. I hope this little nugget of an episode will provide you with a little inspiration for your personal journey. If you haven't already, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Just Breathe podcast. Let's keep on building that strong breathing community. The more people talking about breathing, the better. It is infectious. So today I'm going to be reading from a book called Open Heart, Open Mind, A Guide to Inner Transformation by Tsoknyi Rinpoche. I hope I am pronouncing that correctly. I could not put this book down when I read it, and as soon as I finished it, I just wanted to read it all over again to soak up even more of all the insights it has to offer. So Tsoknyi Rinpoche is one of the most beloved of the contemporary generation of the Tibetan Buddhist meditation masters. And he conveys so beautifully in his book how within each of us there is an unlimited capacity for warmth, openness, courage, and love. I'm going to be reading from chapter 3 called The Spark, and I hope you really enjoy this first mini episode of Just Breathe. At the end of the practice, it's traditional to pass whatever strength, peace, or calmness we've awakened onto others. Of course, some people may balk at this. Why should I give away the work I've done to people I don't know? All I can tell you is that you don't lose anything by sharing. Strength grows by giving it away. You can see it for yourself the next time you enter a fast food restaurant and look into the eyes of someone taking your order for a meal. Maybe they'll seem a bit more alive and alert when fulfilling your order. Or maybe when you genuinely thank someone who fills your gas tank, you can see his eyes light up, his body straighten as he genuinely recognizes that someone is seeing him as a human being. Perhaps he will be more likely to address the next person he serves as a human being, acting more kindly and politely, which may influence the behaviour of the person served to treat the next person he or she meets with an extra degree of courtesy and respect. I've seen people too who thank a bus driver when getting off a bus. Sometimes there's no reaction, but as other people take note of that action and thank the bus driver too, an atmosphere of good feeling ripples through the bus and perhaps spreads out across the city. In this sense, aspiration bodhicitta is like focusing on the goal of carrying everyone to a certain destination. For example, London, Paris, or Washington, D.C. In the case of aspiration bodhicitta, of course, the destination is the total awakening of the mind, or absolute bodhicitta. Application bodhicitta involves actually taking the steps to arrive at an intended destination. It focuses on the path of attaining the goal of aspiration bodhicitta, freeing all living beings from suffering through recognition of their basic nature. Remembering. Many of us wonder if we're capable of so much. Why aren't we all living joyfully, openly, and peacefully together? Why is there so much war, violence, and tragedy in the world? Why do some of us feel hollow inside? Why do we feel jealous, angry, afraid, depressed, even suicidal? Why do we argue with the people we're closest to? Why do we race around so much, jumping from relationship to relationship, job to job, always looking for the next best thing, the newest gadget? Why do some of us turn to alcohol, or drugs, or sex, or food? Why do we punish ourselves, our children, our friends? Why do we feel so limited and powerless? The simplest answer is that we've forgotten who we are. That basis of openness, clarity, and love gets layered over. In part by the way we are structured as human beings, and in part by our experiences and the lessons we learn throughout life. There's an old Buddhist story about a wrestler who wore a jewel in his hair. During a match with other wrestlers, he received a blow to his head, and without his realizing it, the jewel dropped into the wound. When the wound healed over, the jewel was covered up by the scar. The poor wrestler spent the rest of his days looking for the jewel, never realizing that it was inside him all the time. That's the position in which most of us find ourselves. We believe deep down that we've lost something precious and are seeking it outside ourselves, never realizing that we are carrying it within us wherever we go. But if we just look beneath the scars, the wounds we've experienced in life, we can rediscover that jewel, that basic, unconditional love. We can clean and polish it until all its facets sparkle. In the same way, when we rediscover essence love, we can nurture and cultivate it until it becomes bodhicitta, a deep and active caring for the welfare of others. Of course, developing bodhicitta often requires some sacrifice, a decision to place the well-being of another above our own desires, needs, hopes, and fears. It means granting people the right to make their own decisions even if we don't agree with them. It means allowing people to make mistakes and allowing them to learn from them. It means accepting what we may consider flaws in our own and others' personalities and accepting them as part of a larger, long-term learning process. It means cultivating within ourselves a place of deep caring, a sense of home to which we can always return, be welcome, and rediscover the capacity for healing from whatever hurt we've caused ourselves and others. Through this healing, we begin to approach a greater potential as human beings than we could have ever imagined. Questions remain though. How do we awaken? How do we light up? The answers can be found in the following chapters, which provide some basic insights into the Buddhist understanding of how human development in general and events in our own lives come together to layer over our spark. They also provide practices that can begin to gently, kindly address these layers and help us to integrate what we've learned from them rather than reject them outright. There is so much we've learned from the lives we've led, and it would be a shame to simply throw it all away because of the losses we've suffered, the pain we've experienced. We've each in our own way learned a few things that might help other people. That is one of the fundamental goals of the Buddhist path, to help people live more openly, wisely, and generously towards themselves and others. Both understanding and practice are necessary to reconnect with the spark at the basis of being and encourage it to grow. There's an old Buddhist saying that in order to fly, a bird needs 2 wings. In order to break through the layers of misidentification that binds us to ideas about ourselves as vulnerable, weak, unworthy, ugly, and so on, we need both an understanding of our basic nature and the patterns that keep us from expressing it, and the means of working with those patterns as kindly and gently as possible. In the meantime, I'd like to give you another taste of what this experience of clarity and warmth may be like. So that whole chapter of the spark I found particularly moving, but the story about the wrestler really struck me. The wrestler with the jewel that got lost in the wound in his head, and he spent his whole life looking for it outside of himself, unbeknowing that it was there the entire time inside him. And I just think that is so incredibly relevant to my journey, especially because I definitely still do, but so much more in the past, used to be someone that seeked fulfillment from outside of myself, from objects, relationships, achievements especially. And actually the time when I felt the most fulfilled was when I looked inward. And of course it is a practice, and it is something I have taken my first baby step on, but I think it's so incredibly important to be constantly reminded by brilliant books like this one about how capable we are of healing ourselves, how the answers are all in there, they're inside ourselves, just like that jewel, they're right there, and all we have to do is listen. And I think many of us see growth as something that is a progression to be somebody else, or, you know, when someone says, I'm such a different person now, when actually I think I'm coming to learn that it's more of a coming back to our basic nature. It's mentioned a lot in this book, our basic nature, that clarity, calm, openness, that warmth within us that we recognize often in babies and children who have not learnt to self-criticize, to judge themselves yet, who have not learnt about all the different things we're conditioned to believe about ourselves and others, the meaning of good and bad, of right and wrong, of what is accepted and what is not accepted. Which is why I suppose children and babies provide so much warmth. Whether you know them or not, you can't help but smile when you're looking at a child or a baby, right? So I think I'm starting to think of this journey of growth and development, of healing, the journey that never ends, of course, is actually more a coming back to the essence of myself, that essence love, rather than progressing to be like someone that I've seen on Instagram, or like someone that I've seen on a TED Talk, or anyone that I aspire to be like. Because I think it's wonderful to look up to people and to aspire to hold some of their qualities and even to achieve things similar to what they've achieved. But I think it's important to detach to the idea of becoming that person, which is definitely something that I fell victim to in the past. I have been so absolutely inspired by different public figures that I have almost started to try to transform myself into that person, which in essence is almost saying to yourself that you are not good enough, when actually, of course, you know, we are so enough, and we are all we have, and it is everything. So aspiring to be the true essence of yourself, and that is where success lies, I think is a big takeaway I got from this book, and coming back to yourself. I really hope you enjoyed this first episode. Do let me know in the comments what your takeaways were from the small section I read, or if you have read the book from the book itself. And I will see you next time.